Good morning. Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened a closet, looked at all the neatly stacked boxes and thought, well, at least it looks under control? Maybe you've even bought more containers, more shelves, or those matching labels that make everything feel Pinterest-worthy. You stand back, admire your work, and yet, a week later, that same closet somehow feels heavy again. Like the piece didn't last. You're not alone in that feeling. Hi there. Let's have a real conversation. Just you and me. A conversation about clutter, but not in the way you think. Because clutter isn't the enemy. Clutter is the symptom. It's not about how much stuff you own or how organized your pantry looks. It's about what's behind it all. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, this message is especially important. Because this is the season of life where freedom, clarity, and ease matter more than ever. Now, I know organizing feels productive. It gives us control. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with wanting your home to be clean and orderly. A tidy kitchen drawer makes cooking more pleasant. A labeled garage makes it easier to find your tools. But here's the deeper truth most people don't want to say out loud. Organizing doesn't solve the problem. It masks it. It delays it. Sometimes it even makes it worse. You see, organizing gives the illusion of progress. You move the stuff around, maybe color-code it, maybe hide it in pretty baskets. And for a moment, you feel better. But nothing actually changes. That same basement still weighs on your mind. That same attic still holds memories you haven't had the heart to face. And sooner or later, the neatly packed clutter becomes just clutter again. Let me be honest with you. I used to think organizing would fix everything too. I thought, if I just had the right system, the right bins, the right method, I could finally feel in control. But all I was really doing was buying more stuff to manage my stuff. It never addressed the emotions that came with it. The guilt, the fear, the longing, and most of all, the stories attached to every single item I couldn't let go of. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Maybe it's your grown children's toys that still sit in the closet, even though they now have kids of their own. Maybe it's the wedding china you've used only once, but keep because it represents a time that feels like it's slipping away. Or that dress in the back of the closet you haven't worn in 15 years, but part of you holds onto it because it reminds you of who you used to be. These things aren't just things, they're symbols. They're tied to your identity, your memories, your sense of purpose, your hopes, your grief. And so we don't let go, we organize. We stack, label, rearrange. But we don't face. And here's where it gets tricky. Organizing gives us a sense of control, but not actual peace. It's like putting a bandage over a deep wound and hoping it'll heal on its own. But unless we look beneath the surface, unless we ask, why am I holding on to this, nothing ever really shifts. That's the real issue. We're not talking about stuff. We're talking about the weight of the past. The stories we're still carrying. The what-ifs and some days that pile up in the corners of our homes and our hearts. Now let's talk about another trap that keeps many of us stuck. It's one I know all too well. Perfectionism. Especially if you grew up in a generation where appearances mattered, where success was measured by how put together things looked. Maybe you prided yourself on a beautiful home, a clean kitchen, a neat desk. And you still do. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's what I want you to hear. Perfectionism dressed up as organization can rob you of freedom. It keeps you focused on how things look, not how they feel. It whispers that everything needs to be just right before you can start letting go, before you can downsize, before you can create that simpler life you say you want. I once worked with a woman in her early 70s. Her garage was immaculate. Truly, magazine-worthy. Every shelf was labeled, every bin was color-coded, and her tools were arranged better than some hardware stores. She was proud of it, and rightfully so. But when I gently asked her how long it had been since she'd parked her car in that space, she smiled and admitted it had been over 10 years. Her organizing gave her surface-level control, but not true freedom. The clutter was still there. It was just neatly hidden. So I ask you, where are you hiding your clutter? Is it in your closet? Your basement? The guest bedroom no one goes into anymore? Or is it in your heart, in the form of memories you're not ready to face? Grief you haven't processed? Dreams you quietly let go of years ago? See, the truth is, clutter is never just about space. It's about time, energy, emotion. It takes up room in our homes and in our minds. And if you've ever walked into a room and felt instantly exhausted or overwhelmed, chances are, it's not just the physical mess that's draining you. It's what that mess represents. But I have good news. You can break free from it. And not by organizing more, not by buying another set of bins or installing new shelves. You can break free by letting go. Letting go isn't just about getting rid of stuff. It's about releasing the weight of what no longer serves you. It's about deciding that your peace matters more than your possessions. It's about understanding that your memories live inside you, not in the broken lamp or the yellowed papers or the out-of-style clothes. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Letting go brings up emotions, sometimes powerful ones. But that's where the healing starts. That's where the transformation begins. Letting go is different from organizing because it forces us to make decisions, to face truths, to choose what matters now, not just what mattered then. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Because on the other side of all that clutter is freedom, space, clarity, and peace. So today, I want you to do something small. Just one thing. Look around the room you're sitting in. Find one item, just one, that you know you don't need anymore. Hold it. Ask yourself, what story am I attaching to this? And then ask, am I ready to let this go? And if the answer is yes, let it go. Not because you're erasing the memory, but because you're making space for your future. You deserve that space. You've earned that freedom. And I'm here to walk with you through it. You know, it's funny how we tell ourselves we're just not ready yet to let go. We say things like, maybe next spring I'll tackle the attic, or once I find the perfect donation center, I'll get started. But behind all of that delay, there's usually something deeper going on. Not laziness, not forgetfulness, just fear. Fear of making a mistake, fear of regret, fear of loss. And often, it's not about the object itself, it's about what that object represents. Letting go of an old letter from someone who's no longer here can feel like letting go of that person. Getting rid of the broken sewing machine might feel like saying goodbye to the woman you used to be, creative, capable, busy. Donating a box of unused craft supplies can feel like giving up on hobbies you thought you'd have time for again. But let me offer you something to consider. Your identity doesn't live in your stuff. Who you are today is shaped by everything you've lived through, not everything you still hold on to. And sometimes, releasing an item allows you to carry the memory, not the weight. We've all been told that organizing is a good habit, and on the surface, it is. But there's a line we often don't realize we're crossing, where organizing becomes a way to avoid. We avoid making decisions. We avoid feeling things. We avoid acknowledging that time has passed, that life has changed, that we've changed. Think about how many times you've reorganized the same drawer, the same shelf, the same cabinet. Maybe even labeled everything neatly and felt accomplished, until a few weeks later, you're back at it again. If organizing truly worked, wouldn't you be done by now? That's the trap so many fall into, especially those of us who were raised with the idea that more is better. That having a well-stocked home was a sign of preparation and pride. And that being busy cleaning, busy fixing, busy sorting, was somehow proof that we were doing okay. But at this stage of life, isn't it time to stop proving something and start experiencing something? When you let go, truly let go, you open the door to something that's been trying to reach you for a long time: freedom. Not just physical freedom, but emotional and mental space to breathe. And believe me, you can feel it. You'll walk into a room and feel lighter. You'll open a closet and feel calm instead of overwhelmed. You'll remember something, not because of the item, but because your mind has space to bring the memory forward without being smothered by clutter. I remember working with a couple who had lived in their house for over 40 years. Their basement was full, boxes stacked to the ceiling, Christmas decorations from the 70s, broken appliances, old magazines, and dozens of items that might be useful someday. When we began the decluttering process, the wife turned to me and said, "I didn't even realize how anxious this was making me. I just thought this is what a basement is supposed to look like." But after 3 weeks of sorting, letting go, and being honest about what really mattered, she sat in that same space and cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. "I can breathe down here," she said. "For the first time in years, I can breathe." That's the power of letting go. Now, I'm not saying you have to get rid of everything. This isn't about minimalism or some extreme lifestyle. It's about being intentional, keeping what serves you now, not what served you 20 years ago. Not what might serve someone else one day, but what genuinely supports the life you want to live today. Ask yourself this: is your home serving you, or are you serving your home? If you're constantly cleaning, moving, sorting, and searching, then your stuff might be running the show. And you didn't work this hard in life to let old belongings take charge of your peace of mind. So let's talk about the emotional side a little more, because this is where most people get stuck. There's grief involved in decluttering, even if we don't realize it. Grief for who we were, who we thought we'd be, and sometimes for the dreams that didn't turn out the way we hoped. It's okay to feel that. It's normal. But what's not okay is letting those unspoken feelings keep you from moving forward. You're not giving up. You're growing. You're not throwing things away. You're choosing what gets to come with you into this new season of life. And here's something else. When you start to let go, you'll notice an interesting shift. You'll become more aware of what you allow in. Suddenly, shopping for new things becomes less tempting. You start asking different questions at the store. Do I really need this? Will this bring value to my day-to-day life? Or am I trying to fill a space that could be left open? That's a beautiful shift to witness, because it means you're no longer running on autopilot. You're awake. You're choosing. Now you might be wondering, where do I even start? And the answer is small, always small. You don't need to tackle the whole house. Just open one drawer, one cabinet, one closet. Pick up one item and ask, do I use this? Do I love this? Would I buy this again today? If the answer is no, then thank it for its place in your life and let it go. Give it a new home. Release it to make space for something better. Maybe not a new item, but a new breath of peace. And be gentle with yourself. This isn't a race. You've spent a lifetime collecting, remembering, holding. It's okay for the process of releasing to take time. It should, because you're not just clearing out junk. You're rewriting your relationship with your things. You're reclaiming control, not through organizing, but through choosing. One choice at a time. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about things. It's about you, your comfort, your peace, your joy. You don't need a perfect system. You don't need matching bins or fancy labels. You need the courage to ask the hard questions, to sit with the emotions, to remember that your worth isn't measured by what you keep, but by how freely you live. There's something deeply powerful about saying, "This no longer belongs in my life," and meaning it. Not from a place of anger or urgency, but from a quiet knowing that what you need now is less weight and more space. You've carried so much. Decades of memories, obligations, roles you've had to play. Maybe you were the one who kept every family photo, every birthday card, every report card and holiday decoration, because no one else seemed to care as much. Maybe you've been the one others counted on to hold things together. And maybe, after all that, you forgot that you deserved to set some of it down. That's what this moment is about. Not a clean house for guests. Not a perfectly organized drawer, but a lighter life for you. Let me ask you something that might surprise you. What would freedom feel like if you owned less? Really picture it. Would you wake up more at peace? without the quiet guilt of unfinished piles calling your name? Would you feel safer knowing exactly what you have and where it is? Would you feel more energized in a space that finally reflects who you are today, not who you were 20 years ago? Because letting go isn't loss. It's making room. Room for new experiences. Room for deeper rest. Room for your truest self to finally stretch and breathe without being boxed in by layers of things you no longer need. I remember a gentleman in his late 60s I worked with. He was a retired engineer, methodical and meticulous. His home was spotless, everything labeled and organized by category and date. But he said something to me one afternoon that stuck with me ever since. He said, "You know, I thought I was organizing for my peace of mind, but now I see I was organizing because I didn't know how to let go." That realization changed everything for him. He started small. Just a box of old VHS tapes. Then a drawer of manuals for electronics he no longer owned. Then a closet of clothes that didn't fit, but held memories of a life he was no longer living. And with every item he let go of, something else opened up: time, space, and most importantly, clarity. He called me a month later and said, "My house didn't change that much, but I did." That's what I want for you, not just a neat living room or a clean garage. I want you to feel that shift. That moment when you realize you're not just rearranging the past, you're designing the future. And here's the secret no one tells you. You don't need permission to let go. Not from your kids, not from your spouse, not from anyone else. This is your life. You are the one who has to live with what you carry, physically, mentally, emotionally. And you are the one who gets to decide what stays and what goes. Now, if you're feeling unsure or overwhelmed or even a little emotional right now, that's okay. That means this message is touching something real inside you. And that's good. That's the beginning. Because this isn't a one weekend and done kind of project. This is a process of self-honoring. It's peeling back the layers slowly, intentionally, kindly. It's saying, yes, this mattered, but it doesn't have to stay forever. It's asking, what am I gaining by letting go? More room to move safely around your home. More clarity when you open a drawer. More joy when the space around you reflects the peace within you. More time for hobbies, walks, books, people. More freedom. You see, we're not just decluttering objects, we're decluttering expectations. We're clearing away years of pressure, busyness, and silent stories. And we're replacing all of it with space to breathe and space to be. One woman told me after her decluttering journey, "I thought I'd feel sad, but I feel proud. I finally feel like I'm living for me again." And that's what I want to leave you with. Not a checklist, not a system, not a list of bins to buy. Just a message straight from the heart. You are not your stuff. Your worth is not in what you keep. Your memories live in your heart, not in your garage. Your peace is not hiding in a storage closet. And your future deserves more room than your past is currently taking up. So what do you say? Are you ready to stop organizing your stuff and start facing it? Are you ready to say, "Yes, I'm allowed to let this go"? Because you are. And if you're not ready to start big, then start small. Let go of just 10 things today. That's all. Maybe a broken remote, a duplicate kitchen tool, an old birthday card. And as you let go, say thank you. Not out loud, necessarily, but in your heart. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your meaning in my life. And now, I release you. That's how it begins. And once it begins, you'll feel it. That little spark of freedom. That shift in the air. That space on the shelf that wasn't there before, but now holds a little more peace. If this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you started decluttering already? Is there something you've been holding on to for years that you're finally ready to let go of? Share your story in the comments. I read every one, and your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this video encouraged you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more messages that help you live with more clarity, more freedom, and more joy. You've spent your life building, giving, helping, holding. Now it's time to breathe, to release, to lighten. Here's to living your best life with less stuff and so much more peace. Take care of yourself. And remember, letting go isn't about losing anything. It's about finally making space for everything that matters.